Now, news from the latest battle in the war against woke. This time, a battle against our political elite, celebrating every culture but our own, or the foundation culture of this wonderfully free and rich society. Tonight, locals in Berwick and Narre Warren in Melbourne's south, they're holding a meeting with their local politicians to protest about a decision by the Victorian Labor government to rename a local lake, the Berwick Springs Lake, in honour of the Indian founder of the Sikh religion. It's now going to be called the Guru Nanak Lake, and more than 5,000 people have signed a petition in protest. And it's no wonder, for a start, most Australians, at least half, are still Christian. But there is no way that this Labor government, of course, would even think of calling this lake the Jesus Christ Lake, because that would be divisive and exclusionary and all the terrible words. But the Guru Nanak Lake, apparently that's fine, even though just 4% of the locals there are Sikh. And I guess that Planning Minister Sonia Kilkenny was really just keen for their vote, operating under Labor's slice and dice multicultural politics. But there's something else that's curious about this renaming. This ludicrously woke government is renaming the lake under its Name a Place program, which asks the public for suggestions on its website, saying that for someone to be commemorated with a place name, that person will be deceased or have left a lasting legacy and have a long association with the nominated area. But of course, Guru Nanak never left India. He's not a local, certainly never visited Berwick Springs before he died nearly 400 years ago. So this really does look like colonization, not multiculturalism, okay? This is colonization, a sort of takeover. I was joined a short while ago by the local state member for the area, Brad Battin, who's going to this meeting, is also the opposition's police spokesman. Brad Battin, thank you so much for your time. This meeting tonight, what's the aim there?
Yeah, Andrew, this is a community coming to us and they've got genuine concerns about the consultation they had about naming the Berwick Springs Lake to the Guru Nanak Reserve or Guru Nanak Lake. And the people are concerned because they weren't consulted. And this is nothing new from this government. We've been involved with other things in the area, the Beaconsfield Reservoir. They weren't consulted about the changes up there. Our fight here is nothing to do with that local community and the Sikh community who do an amazing job in the local area. Our fight is with the government to say that you've got to consult with the local constituents when you're making such a big change.
But surely it's about more than just a lack of consultation, Brad Battin. I mean, this government would never dream of naming a lake after Jesus Christ, say, okay, or Mary Magdalene or St. Paul. But it's named it after another religious figure from a different religion completely, the Sikh religion, and naming it not after a local even, but someone who never left India. What do you think the agenda is here?
Yeah, I've been very public on this, Andrew, and said that renaming any government facilities after religious names can only be divisive. It can only create issues. And this is the example of what can happen. So people want to be very cautious when you start doing this. I wouldn't, as you exactly rightly said, I wouldn't have a park that was called Jesus or God Park, but I may name a park after Father Bob for the work he did in the local community as a religious figure. But he's someone who's genuinely given back. And even under their own criteria for name a park or name a place under the government's criteria, this wouldn't comply. And because it wouldn't comply, I think that's why they haven't done the consultation. But we want to be careful because people are arguing with me saying, but Brad, we've got Mary MacKillop School and St John of God Hospital. That's correct. They're private enterprises. They're nothing to do with government. And the government's decisions to make this choice shouldn't be to put a religion in there because it's only divisive and may prevent some people using specific areas.
Yes, I'd have absolutely no problem with the local Sikhs calling one of their temples the Guru Nanak Temple. That's absolutely their privilege and right. And if they want to set up a hospital and name it the Guru Nanak Hospital, again, that's up to them. But it's the state government's hypocrisy and picking and choosing that's in my sights at the moment. For instance, I see the board that the state government has put up at the lake. It pays respects to Sikhs. It pays respects to Aboriginal elders, and at the end says a permanent sign will be erected at the lake after consultation with traditional owners, with Sikhs, the local council and Melbourne Water. It won't be consulting, of course, with the many other ethnic groups that use the lake, paid for the rates and built Berwick. Like I said, this seems to be a part of a policy to honour every culture except the Australian one. How do you see that?
Look, I agree. This is part of the concern we've got. It's actually how they're doing that consultation. And to put it into perspective, when we spoke about private versus public, I was actually involved with the Gurdwara down in Officer, it is a Nanak Gurdwara in Officer, an amazing group, an amazing organisation that had issues with the local community. We fought so they could be where they are and make sure they could have that freedom of religion, something we still back today. But now what you're seeing is the process for a government facility, a government lake run by Melbourne Water, and we're actually seeing it through Berwick Springs, where the local community had to pay infrastructure costs to get that lake established, to maintain it. They pay extra in their rates, so it's maintained to a higher standard than most parks in the area, but they didn't get a say in what happens. That lake has a very long traditional name. Anyone who's trying to argue that it wasn't named, they're wrong. It was actually named after the original farm in the area, which was the Springs. It's been with the water coming from the Berwick Springs and became Berwick Springs Lake. Because it wasn't gazetted, doesn't mean it didn't have a name.
Honestly, the whole thing is so ridiculous. Let them call a lake the Jesus Christ Lake, and then let's talk about the Guru Nanak Lake after that. But they won't do the first. They'll say it's too divisive, but they will do the second and not realise exactly the divisions that you're trying to address here, Brad Battin. And I'll be really interested to know what comes out of that meeting tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.